Milena Moulisová is the head of youth basketball for the Czech Basketball Federation, a position she's held since 2014. Her focus is on youth players up until under 15 and coach education. Milena has a background in physical education and holds many certifications, including being a FIBA A licensed coach. Milena has considerable coaching experience across the world, having coached at several clubs in the US, Denmark, Slovakia, and Slovenia. Milena, it's a pleasure having you on the podcast.
Hello, thank you very much for invitation and having me here.
Well, we're super excited to have you, and we're going to have a great conversation about a whole bunch of topics. But Milena, maybe you can start with just talking about some of the different Czech programs that you're involved with in terms of Coach for Future, Impulses for Kids, and then some of the summer camps, all these to drive development at the youth level.
Okay, great. Actually, I would definitely like to share these ideas because we have the team that is working on those, like coaches development. Coach for Future, that is the program that was actually inspired by our German colleague Tim Brentias, and we started to think about it. We would definitely like to have something for our coaches. I'm saying coaches for kids till under 14 because we had the programs for older ones. So that's why we decided to have a specialized programs for kids coaches, let's say. So this is a program that is something more than the licenses of coaches. Coaches normally have the licenses as everywhere else, but this is, do you want to have a more education? Do you want to do something more for your education? Then let's come here. And we have 2 to 3 weekends with these coaches and focus on some details, feedbacks. It's very interactive. Other side, we have only like 1-day events that are called Impulses for the kids coaches, youth coaches, which is always 1 weekend. And it has much more participants, like about 50, 60 participants. Coach for Future is always only maximum 15. This weekend is awesome because of the community, because of the people that are coming from different clubs, different levels, different ages, different gender. So it's also like socializing and networking event, let's say, between the coaches. You actually mentioned also the summer camps that were connected also to basketball immersion. Because we started to organize summer camps. Every summer we have camps for usually under 13 kids, girls and boys together. And frankly, I always want to have the head coach who is international, because you know how it is. The parents, they listen to, hey, they have the English speaking coach and so on. And I have to thank you now to all the coaches from basketball immersion that took part, like Alex or Francesco Nani, because it was perfect.
Well, so and hopefully me this summer.
Oh, I hope so.
That's the plan. Well, thank you. We're grateful with our relationship with you and with Czech basketball. And so the reason we wanted to talk about this, because I think so many organizations and clubs around the world talk about providing better education for youth coaches. But by and large, that's the area that gets skipped. But we generally don't spend enough time educating youth coaches. And there's a lot of barriers to that. And I want both of you to maybe talk about that. But the essential part is we know that young people are not mini adults. They're different. So when we think about coaching a college team versus coaching a youth team, they're very different. Alex, maybe first, let's talk about some of the barriers to coaching or to educating coaches at the young levels.
Well, firstly, I think it's great having Milena here. Our relationship goes back a while when we worked on the junior NBA camp in Slovenia back in 2015. I think ever since then, I've been very interested in the work being done in the Czech Republic because there's such a big emphasis placed on youth basketball and youth coaching education. And I haven't really encountered that in many other places in Europe. I think, too, when we look at a lot of the traditional kind of coach education material, a lot of it is typically tailored towards coaches who aren't actually coaching at this age within some federations. So I think having, youth coaching, it's almost like a different sport to the needs of a senior professional player. And starting, I think, kind of what a youth player needs is so different all our immersion concepts in terms of small-sided games and just creating a positive atmosphere. And that's all the stuff that we've done the last 2 years when we've done these camps in the Czech Republic, when we've come in and worked with the coaches, worked with the players. It's showing that there's a different priority when working with these youth players, and it's more about creating that environment which is setting them up for future success. You've kind of got to reverse engineer it a bit and think, what are the skills these players need when they turn 18 or 19 and they go up to senior basketball, especially that's the age here in Europe. And then it's kind of like working backwards from there, so that at the youth level, you're actually working on the skills and concepts which are going to be useful for them when they're older. And a lot of the time when we look at these traditional drills using block constant practice, it's just doing things which isn't necessarily going to help these players become the most skilled, adaptive players they can be when they're older.
Milena, what are some of the barriers that you're facing? Because again, you're at least trying to get these youth coaches educated, which I love.
If you take just the program and event and to have it, it makes nothing. You firstly have to have a concept, and you have to have a leaders that will give you a direction, which is not just me. It's actually my board director. It's our generally secretary general or board. With the small kids, which is called baby basketball in our country, and we started to educate coaches, especially also in this age. It's very, very important how you coach it, because if I will come to the gym and say the kids, you stand here, you run here, and you shoot here, well, okay, the kids is gonna do it, but then Milena will come and she will say, hey, we are in the wood, we are hunters, and it's really necessary to have that enthusiasm, to have that energy, and actually focus on also how you coach and how you are as the role of the coach. What are you as the example? And to me, sometimes it's even more than technical side. We agree with this for
a lot
all
more. Yeah. And what you're implying is when you do that, obviously we have to focus on interjecting more fun, more activities that they get excited about. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I going back to the question, actually, with the youth basketball, what helped us as the federation is also the connection with Italian Federation on Erasmus project, which was called Easy Basketball, which is also focused on like skill development in the game approach, let's say, with the development of cognitive functions and so on. So it really, really helped us. So because if Maurizio Cremonini says something to the coaches, then it's really, really great. And maybe it will more influence the coaches than if Milena is going to say it.
Well, getting experts and getting different people involved to help support what you do. That's been very common for Alex and I in terms of some of the travel that we've done. It's largely not been to help people say, come to these conclusions that you and we've already come to. It's to support what they're saying, just saying the same thing they're saying, but now it's coming from a different voice. And it does add power to it, doesn't it, Alex?
Oh, 100%. And that's absolutely it. Just sometimes framing things in a different perspective can help connect some different dots. And I totally agree with that statement.
So one of the challenges, obviously, that we know for youth coaches is that almost all of them are not professionals. So it's really hard for them sometimes to understand why they need to spend time on their education, especially like we face this in North America. I'm not sure about in Europe as much, but the parent coach. And they're like, I'm doing this as a volunteer. I'm not doing this as a professional, but you're asking me to go get certified. And a lot of coaches don't see the value of that. So what say you to that?
Definitely the same in Czech Republic. And frankly, as soon as we settled the professional positions within the federation, we started to think about this. And we always have the programs, events where the coaches are coming to us, but there are also the programs when we are actually going to the clubs. I am going all around the country, and it doesn't matter if it's the sports center that is supported by the federation or if it's just the small club that has 3 teams. If they ask me to come there, I'm trying always to settle it into my calendar. And I have other colleagues that are in the position that they are running those workshops. And frankly, we are trying to find a way how we can get to them, closer to them, and give them that education. And my experience is that we are always very welcomed, and I'm always very surprised how they are actually hungry about to know more. And we also have to create some opportunities for them. It's as coach for future impulses and so on.
I imagine that's a big part of your job, isn't it? It's connecting. Hey, you did this, and now look, your players are having a better experience, or you're making some type of connection for them so that they understand the value of what they're doing.
Exactly. And you always have to praise them. You always have to think about the feedbacks. It's very hard, but we always have to think they are not professionals. They are giving as much energy as they can. Maybe that's their limit, but they are actually giving their time to our kids.
Also, I think a big part of that is when just the camp when we were together, and it was the most organized camp I've been a part of, but also from a coach education perspective, every single day we were doing debriefs and we're having challenging conversations, but in a good way. And also with the coaches, it really helped them get involved in it and have deep conversations. And I think that's so important with any of these like coach education type activities. I feel like if coaches, especially volunteer coaches, a lot of countries in Europe have these, volunteer based, whether it's the UK, a lot of countries in Scandinavia, Northern Europe, it's the same. But I think if coaches feel like they go to an event and they get something out of it, which they can use with their team, and it's an engaging format, they're more likely to want to do more. But really, I think the problem traditionally with how a lot of these events are run are they're quite dry. It's typically like a seminar where one person is speaking for the whole time. There's not much opportunity for interaction. And that's why I think, events like the camps you ran, Milena, and some of the immersion academies we do, we're not just giving a very different type of content, but we're actually delivering in an engaging manner. And I think that's really critical for any federation or organization to consider if they want to get more people feeling good about learning. Running more interactive events, I think, is a key place to start.
Which means less passive learning and more active learning, right? And
exactly,
we say the same thing. We all three of us agreed this is the way we should be coaching players. So why are we not coaching coaches the same way, making it more active for them?
Exactly. And you will actually be facing the same things as with the players, because frankly, many times you are going to face the coaches that are professionals. That's my experience. And I thought that if we will give them more money, if they will be full professionals, everything is going to be perfect and they will be growing, blah, blah, blah. But as soon as they weren't open-minded, they were totally closed, it didn't help. So the money could not help. They have to be open-minded. And that's why actually I'm always trying to find the coaches that I can take only 6 best coaches to the camp every summer and say, let's go and make it the best for kids. But because I am trying to think about coaches development, I always take different people, different coaches, but also from different towns, different regions, to make sure that maybe I want to postpone exact person because I've seen him on some game, on some practice, and I want to give them another opportunity because I could see that they want this opportunity.
Isn't it fun to watch the coaches try the same skills they're going to be teaching and to put that in perspective for them? And it's not so that they can do it perfect, it's so that they can experience it. And Basketball Canada, a long time, this goes back 30 years when I did my certifications, Bob Bain, Bill Pangos, 2 really highly respected coaches taught my, level 1, level 2, level 3. And every single time we went to a weekend of training, we participated and we were the demonstrators. And I'm telling you, the humility that comes from that is very empowering because it really puts you in a situation where you have to figure out, okay, how would a player be experiencing this and how do I help them? And that's really what you're talking about in a lot of these interactive experiences, isn't it?
Definitely. They have the experience, like they are living it. They are as the kids in some parts of the these courses, but also then on the third stage or second stage, they have the camps with kids, and they are the leaders. They are these coaches who are running these camps, and we are just watching them and giving the feedbacks, or other group is giving the feedback, not just we as the leader. So it's like the creating the community that is very open to each other, and being interactive is the key, as you said.
Just before Alex goes, my general rule to coaches when they're trying to learn something to teach for the first time, first of all, try it. Secondly, teach it. And then once your players do it, ask them, hey, do you think this adds value? Do you think this helps you? Is there something about this that works or doesn't work? Because I can't tell you how many times I taught players, especially when as a younger coach, something. And then later I found out they didn't think it was very valuable. And I was like, okay, if it's not valuable to them, it's not my solution, it's their solution. Alex?
No, I just had some good flashbacks of all those coaches in Bavaria trying out BDT, and it was funny. But on a serious note, it was like the coaches who kind of got the most out of that weekend and really were the most engaged were the ones who were up there trying out the BDT, trying different things, and it was just great to see.
Well, we do this at our immersion academies too, and the other part that goes with it, Alex, and I'm sure you're surprised how many coaches refuse to go out and try it. I was surprised.
Yeah, it was entertaining to say the least.
It was great, but the ones that experienced it, it becomes more permanent for them, and they understand BDT or shoulder game or these different ideas more because they've tried it. And it's a lot easier to remember something once you've done it or tried it. So shifting gears just a little bit, we know there's challenges and we know there's solutions. I do 100% believe in a games approach and small-sided games and offense versus defense for young players, because here's the value of that. At the end of the day, one of the biggest things is to normalize things that happen to players. Things like normalizing failure, normalizing success, normalizing winning, losing, mindset training, coping, and fun. And honestly, it's really hard to create a great practice environment for young players unless you do have these interactive offense versus defense games. And they don't always have to be basketball, right? Alex has many tag games and different types of interactive games. And that's really what we're talking about.
Absolutely. I picked up a lot of good energizers too from Milena. There's a notorious rock, paper, scissors one, which I'll definitely be using soon.
But the players have fun. Awesome. The players win and lose. The players experience competition. It's not just about basketball in that sense, right? It's almost like normalizing some of these things so that they can cope better as they move up through the pathways, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Just that mentality too, to compete and deal with adversity in a practice. Just something I found this year working with some of the players I've had in my program, the players who have come from the most traditional programs, it's really evident because they find it difficult just to cope when things aren't going their way, and it's a difficult practice in terms of maybe they've lost a few small-sided games or their team's down in the scrimmage. It's like the players who are the most kind of adaptive are the ones who are used to being in that environment, which is a lot more immersive than restrictive, so to speak.
Yeah, awesome. I really like that, what you are guys saying. I'm just smiling because it's awesome actually. But I just would like to add one thing. These energizing games, small-sided games, that's everything great. But one thing that we try to add to, for example, the easy basket Italian concept, is that in our country, there is not many of PE lessons and like school sports and stuff like that. That's why we actually had to think about how looks the reality right now. So we had to focus also on the multi-legacy or versatility and the stuff like that. And now we are trying to actually teach the coaches or let them find the solution how to teach the kids and how to set the practices in combination with the development of skills, but also development of how do you say it, abilities, for example,
like motor skills,
motor abilities, I mean. And this is sometimes very hard because you have to think about, you have kids only once or twice a week, 1 hour, and that's it. So we are trying to give them possibilities and teach them that there are the ways how to combine it. So it's just a little detail that I wanted to add to the to to the development of the players, to give them the base. This is what Chris talked about. We give them the base, and if there is a kid that needs to reach the potential which is high, then he can.
A lot of that, as we know, is still what the players are going to do on their own, alone, without a coach. I mean, we know that the best players develop by themselves. Now, the coach is there to help at some point, but what they take beyond practice is what we want. So isn't that really the main thing that you're trying to drive, is you're trying to drive this passion to improve in the players so that they love these practices and they love the environment and they know that they're getting better so that they want to go do more on their own to be able to improve. This has been a really fun conversation. Thank you. Milena, maybe you can just tell us a little bit about how basketball immersion has impacted you and Czech basketball.
I would love to actually start like on a personal way, let's say, because I am the member of basketball immersion and I'm proud member of basketball immersion. And I would love to say that actually it really influenced me and inspired me. And from the first meet of Alex, when he wasn't a part of basketball immersion yet, we had a great discussions, and it took the direction to what we teach right now. We both, so our ways are very, very, very similar. And frankly, to be the member to me is not just the education, but also, you know, I always need to have another energy also, and to have another information, to have another knowledge. I'm not as old to just sit here on the couch. So I want something new, and it's something what basketball immersion definitely gives me. And also it's a big inspiration for me as being the leader at the federation, because I am the one who wants to run the courses, maybe one day to have a great website as you guys have, and the things like that. So you are the inspiration to me. So it's really great inspiration, and it's the engine for me. And thank you on behalf of the Czech Basketball Federation that you are actually influencing us all.
Well, thank you so much for saying that. We're grateful for our relationship with you and, helping you and everyone else around the world grow basketball. And it's been a lot of fun. Thanks for joining us.